Hey, everybody. Thanks for joining tonight. This is Eddie, and I'm here to talk to you about anxiety again. And I have something really interesting to share with you. I'd like to begin just by welcoming you, and thanking you for being here. Always could use more people, more viewers, and more subscribers. So feel free to add friends, family, anyone you know. Sometimes they might be turned off by this topic, but I think it's really intriguing and helpful. The people I've spoken to have actually got a lot out of the videos. So I'm hopeful that if I continue talking about this topic, anxiety, it's just going to be easier for you when you're in the real world dealing with it and it comes up. So just want to recap. Last week I talked about this idea of letting go, something that sounds a lot easier than done. And I used a technique, led a technique which involved actually letting go of our thoughts, letting go of all of the things that come up, in a space of time when we have any time to ourselves. Many things come up, and that technique was called leaves on a stream. And really, what that was about was more of a metaphor, so that if you want to calm down, you can practice this way to get centered and find yourself in the middle of a lot of things. When you find yourself in the middle of a lot of things happening, you can try this technique of letting go of your thoughts, perceptions, emotions, and other things that might be interfering with you fully being aware in the moment. So all this is part of mindfulness practice, which is being more aware and practicing techniques and skills for being more aware in the present moment. And meditation is probably the most useful and effective one. So that was one last week. That was called Leaves on a Stream. The one before that was actually called the Wheel of Awareness. And the Wheel of Awareness was similar to that in that we try to look at our surroundings and differentiate the different stimuli, I guess, around us, and be able to discern what are our physical emotions, what are our perceptions, our body, how it feels, our mental state of mind, our feelings. And then from a part of all that, we stand in the middle as the hub of this wheel, where we have awareness and where we can differentiate between ourselves and our own awareness and the things that are kind of all over around us. And that helps to bring about a feeling of centeredness and also mindfulness and awareness. So those are the two last week. I encourage you to look at them if you missed them. And this week, I have another one. And this one coming up is called a meditation called the Eye of the Hurricane meditation. So I'm going to talk about that in a minute, introduce that. I apologize for the glare on my glasses. I've been asked many times to get a new pair or do something about the lighting, but haven't got quite there yet. So please, I do have real eyes behind these glasses. It bothers me when I look at myself and see this too. So I'm hoping next week I'm going to get some new glasses or something to deal with this glare. And then, excuse me, also just working on getting a better camera too with some better lighting. So I am listening to your feedback. So thank you. All right. So how many of you would like to react or respond differently the next time something comes up in your life that gets you a little anxious or provokes you? So I've been kind of thinking about this over the last week. I'm going to talk a few minutes about it. Then we're going to get into the actual practice of how we can do things so that we remain in this center. Okay. So again, we're using a metaphor here in this idea, which is that in the middle of all this stormy things happening around us, let's just take, for example, work, being on Zoom. If you're a teacher like me, my cousin is on Zoom a lot. My kids are on Zoom. My wife is on Zoom. We're all on this Zoom, and then we go outside and we have to be extra cautious where we move around and making sure we social distance. There's a lot of stuff going on around us, and it can be very off-putting and unsettling. So how would you like if I told you that the next time you need to talk in front of somebody else or be do some kind of performance, whether it's speak up in a class or talk in front of a bunch of people, or if it's going outside where danger lies around us, we don't know who might have the virus. What if I told you that the next time that happens, you might be a little bit less anxious, or you might not get quite as anxious as you got before when this happened. That's kind of a promise, and I really hope it will work. But I just want to say that the only thing with this is that doing it once will help. But as you know, if you don't practice a lot, it's never going to really change. And so you have to be able to do something over and over again so that you can kind of recondition and rewire yourself. Okay, so just remember that if you can practice this, even if you were to do it once a week for 10 or 15 minutes, this practice really can change the way that your brain works and how it will react next time. I should say respond. So there is something to this that I feel is very hopeful, and it's been around for a long time. It's nothing new. So I just want to say a few words too before we get to that. Going to take a look at the clock here. What I wanted to talk a minute about is just fear itself, and recognizing that fear is part of who we are. It's here to protect us. We wouldn't have it unless it was really important. So it is necessary. It's a survival emotion kind of thing. And what I want to say about fear, the point I want to make about fear is that actually fear, just like I mentioned healthy anxiety, there's something called good fear. And good fear is the kind of fear that makes you aware of your surroundings. It brings you in contact with the way you need to respond. It accepts external input to be able to respond and adapt to changing environments around you. This has been called being centered, capable, instinctive, and focused. And I was just thinking the other day, how do I make this point clear? Well, if you guys have watched Star Wars before, we all know about lightsabers. We know if we touch one, we're pretty much going to cut off whatever we touch it with. So we have to be super careful if we had a lightsaber. And there's a scene in the early Star Wars movie where Luke Skywalker actually just clicks on the button. And I always am fascinated because he kind of knows this is a serious weapon, maybe not the full extent of its power, but he actually picks it up and he's able to kind of wave it around a little bit. And I think he's kind of aware that if it touches him or even grazes part of his skin or any body part, I mean, he could die just by dropping it on the ground. But it's Luke, it's Luke Skywalker, right? So what's amazing about that is, though, there is a very fearful thing, a very powerful thing that he's exercising control over, and being able to really use it effectively and skillfully with very little training. And I just remember him excelling at it right away. And I think that's what I'm trying to say about the next time you have to talk in front of someone, or the next time you need to meet with a friend or anybody that might stir up some anxiety in you, or maybe it's just going outside, with COVID around, or whatever it might be. It could just be anything that you don't have to be like Luke Skywalker right away. Well, I don't think that's not what we're going for. But when you have fear, it's going to help you actually to take in your surroundings, to feel control and centered, because you get to talk in front of other people like I'm doing tonight. And fear can actually make you very aware. The only thing about fear, and this is the ending part I want to say about it, is fear can be it's a very thin line between fear and anxiety. So anxiety and fear are both good things, but once anxiety comes into play, fear doesn't take over, anxiety takes over. And anxiety ends up running the show for you. And so just imagine, again, we go back to Luke Skywalker, and if he's getting anxious about dropping the lightsaber or hurting Ben Obi-Wan or damaging something else around him, well, you can see this movie won't work out so well. So, excuse me. The same thing with you. When you're on the spot, I'm thinking about my uncle. I think he might be listening here tonight. I don't know. But when you are a police officer, as he was in the San Jose Police Force, you have to train and get a hold of your fear. But if you were to casually walk up to a suspect in a car late at night and ask them, flash your flashlight at them, you don't want to be all casual about it. On the other hand, you don't want to be all anxious either, like, oh my God, what's in there? What am I going to do? Should I call up 10 backup? So fear can be a balancing thing. Just remember, once you feel a little fear, don't automatically assume that it's anxiety, okay? Maybe that fear is taking you to where you need to be, or setting you up for success, or helping you to avoid danger, right? The last thing is that my cat, Mooney, is he's kind of the opposite sometimes. He can be really startled if you walk into a room really fast, and he just kind of dashes out of there. His kind of fear overtakes him. Sometimes fear will make you have to run. For him, that's where his brain is set to. That's his setting. On the other hand, Mika, our little kitten, she can sit like in this little hammock we have in the middle of the living room when the doorbell's ringing, when people are rushing in and out, coming in from the garage, whatever. And she's just kind of like blinking her eyes like a little Yoda. So I don't know why I keep using the Star Wars metaphors here, but I guess that's helpful for me. So anyway, I hope you can please be accepting of your fear, but notice too when things are when you're feeling like your fear's overtaking you, or your heart rate is getting too high, you find yourself getting tense. That is when you want to try to practice the mindfulness thing that I'm going to share with you. Okay, so on to that. By the way, I am still very new at this, so I'm actually kind of embarrassed to say that I don't know how to share my screen yet. So yeah, sharing my screen right now is actually causing a little bit of anxiety in me right now. So I don't want to get too anxious with that. I'm going to try to promise by next week that I'm going to be able to share my screen and give some visuals. Got some feedback that having visuals is good. I'm not ignoring my feedback. Please tell me more if there's something else you want me to do. All right, so like anything, if it's going to work well, you kind of have to be in a space for it to work well. So let's get started on the eye of the hurricane meditation here. Mindfulness, okay? Taking a breath in and out, and I'm allowed to keep my eyes open, okay? You're supposed to kind of chill and relax a bit and just let your muscles relax. Find a chair, sit up tall if you could. It's best to do it that way. Hands on your lap. And if you would, close your eyes gently. And that may even feel anxious to do. But that's okay. Let yourself feel a little anxious to do that. It's okay. Just going to take a few big breaths in and out. And back in, slowly, and back out. Okay. So as you are becoming more aware of sitting here and doing this exercise, just want to have you notice that you can feel contact between your body and the seat beneath you, or whatever is keeping you up. Also feeling your toes, feet on the floor, the clothes against your skin. I was going to make a joke right there. I shouldn't make a joke. Now, let's consider this metaphor I was telling you. What I want to ask you to do is to try to imagine a hurricane with some really, really turbulent winds just blowing all over the place. Okay. But in the center is the I, okay, where it all is a silent stillness. There's no movement there, there's no wind, or there's not supposed to be. So see if you can identify a quiet sort of space inside you and try to imagine that you're in that center. Whereas all around you, the turbulent winds of the hurricane are blowing. But in the inner core, isn't it peaceful and quiet, right? So the things of people around us, the things we do moment to moment, many of those things may be coming up for us right now. We may be thinking of other thoughts, and that's okay. Because what we're doing is we're just beginning to watch and observe from the center. So your thoughts and feelings, your sensations, all of these things, you might want to compare these. These are comparable to the winds of the hurricane blowing around you. Okay? But they're not touching you. They're really not disturbing you. And I want to ask you to try to let go of all these things for a moment, so that you're not really taking part in them. Okay? So if there's a thought chasing you around, how long is this going to last? Maybe. Or you're hungry, or there's something you have to do after this, or anything else. Self-consciousness, whatever it is. See if you can just kind of let go of those and not take part in that windy, surrounding or environment that's blowing all around. So one of the best ways to do this, not just now in our exercise, but in real life, is to focus on our breath, like all of the other mindfulness activities and meditations I've been sharing. So we're going to simply breathe in, and we're going to breathe out. And we're focusing our attention inward, right? Where we are in the center. Nothing else around us can hurt us. Your eye is deep inside. Okay? And it's in a protected space that you are dwelling. So just feel that quiet, feel that peacefulness around within your space. You can be at ease. There's nothing you are required to do. Just observe. Feel your breath as it comes in and out. You're not reacting. Nothing's being asked of you. Even though all around you, in the hurricane, the windy hurricane part, things are moving and changing, but you're just the opposite. You are stable, okay, and firm. You're not being moved away from this center. You're just staying there. And as you're breathing, we'd like you to notice how you can move more toward the center of the hurricane, even closer or even more toward the middle or very center, so that the winds of the hurricane, which we've compared now to your thoughts, your feelings, or whatever is happening outside yourself, is going on, but you're not, again, participating in any part of it. And if you are, and it's pulling you out of the center, try to see if you can focus again back on your breath, and your breath will take you back to the center where it is safe, peaceful, and quiet. So as you sit there connected to your eye, your eye of the hurricane, notice just again whatever's coming up. Notice the wind of the hurricane, but do not participate. Stay in the eye, notice the thoughts, the feelings, the sensations, and continue to watch the ever-changing nature of the world outside of you and the world inside of you. So you can see from a distance and maybe be curious, but you don't have to do anything. There's no judgment. This is a place where we just kind of see things as they are, let them be, accept them, Um, and I'll just say here that no matter how intense or bad the hurricane gets, the eye is always centered. In nature, it really truly is a place of calm and ease. And it's interesting that these two opposites live side by side and kind of coexist. Um, but take that refuge from that turbulent hurricane and just know that hurricane and its winds, the thoughts, the feelings, whatever's happening, can't hurt you. And your eye, where you are, is a safe place. So whenever you feel the need to restore inner peace, try to remember what I said, and that is to use your breath to stay connected to this silent part of yourself, the part that often actually we forget we even have. But inside of us, you may have felt this before. It's a feeling of being centered. Um, in sports, I guess psychology, athletes might call this being in the zone. And you just are aware. And so I'm just going to close by saying that once we step away from this exercise, we're back in the real world again. The hurricane may seem like it's blowing you again, that you're going to be pushed this way by that person or that thought or that idea or that plan or that thing you never did. All these other things may start coming back into you. But then just remember that if you need a retreat or you need to take time out, and especially in a stressful situation, like we mentioned before at the top of the show, if you need to speak in front of another person, or my son sometimes gets a little anxious before playing Fortnite, or whatever it is. It could be talking to someone on the phone that you don't maybe necessarily like to talk to. And just realize, though, that you can breathe and bring yourself back to this center. And the other word of caution I would just say is it's very normal and natural to sometimes feel that you can't get in touch with the eye, that the eye of the hurricane in real life, that place of quiet and peace, may be elusive sometimes. But I just want you to know that if you can start breathing slowly, you can find your way back there, even during the strongest and darkest of hurricanes. So if you haven't already opened up your eyes, you're free to do that. Please go ahead and do that. Gonna check my watch here. I'm hoping that you got something out of that exercise, and you felt maybe in touch with a part of yourself that maybe you have not been in touch with for a long time, kind of always reacting to this or that, always feeling like you're, I don't know, just having to always respond and react to the hurricane around you. But it's good to take time out. I hope you can use this exercise. And again, as I said, it's as effective as the time you put into it for practicing it during a meditative time. All right. So I hope to see you next time. Again, I want to remind all of you, 8 o'clock is the time that I do this every Thursday for now. I would love to hear some feedback from you. Feel free to comment in the description below. You have to subscribe to do that. So I encourage you to subscribe. Thank you for those of you who could come tonight, and I appreciate it. Pass it on. Thank you, and good night. Peace.